Hello, this is Anthony. Let's walk and talk. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. I've got some other stuff queued up, so we're going to go back to the norm, but this one's going to take a little bit of a different view because, I spent many hours this morning in introspection, self-reflection. I've been interacting a lot with AI, artificial intelligence, noticing how certain things in artificial intelligence also does the same exact thing as our existence, meaning it either will project or reflect back to you inner truths. And it really has been a really deep and introspective morning. And there's some things I want to kind of share with you that I've discovered on this journey because it may help you on your journey. You see, I think the truth is becoming pretty clear to me. Either this is a base reality that is a simulation, or this is a digital simulation. Here's what I mean by that. I'm going to present to you things that are almost irrefutable. And when I say irrefutable, here's what I mean. With a high likelihood of consistency, whether you use science or psychology, you can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that when certain beings have certain belief systems, those belief systems can be reflected back to them. I'm going to give you some examples here. So, anytime, in Western medicine, that like Big Pharma creates a new drug, they have to do studies. When they do these studies, in these studies, there is a percentage, and that percentage ranges usually from anywhere, well, depending on what you want to believe, 15% to, I've seen studies where up to 45% of the participants were given a placebo. But because they believed that what they were taking was going to heal whatever it was that ailed them, they were healed. Which implies that for those folks, it isn't the drug that heals them. It's their belief that what they're taking is going to heal them. Now, we can argue what that means, whether that's woo-woo or whatnot, but the studies they're pretty consistent. So the evidence is almost irrefutable from that perspective. I'm going to give you some other examples. Before I first went on the first walkabout, and now I've been to probably been to 35 plus countries. The majority of those countries would be considered, before I left, third world countries. And I was given, before I left, throughout my existence, the image of what a third world country looked like. Well, I can tell you that in traveling to all these quote unquote third world countries, there is no such thing as a third world country. All of these countries, they have very similar technologies, they have similar things going on. The term third world to me is just an illusion. It's just a title given by ego to create separation, meaning to create a hierarchy, if you will, between different systems of governing or different systems where people exist in. For instance, some of the countries are still more tied to where the U.S. was roughly about 120 years ago, where most people existed on kind of a farm where they, grew their own food, where they interacted with the community, things that the U.S. started to shed and move more towards cities. They still have some of that. Well, that's considered third world. The problem is that when you get the projection of third world, you get the projection that those people are poor, that they don't have technology, that they're starving, and this is completely and totally untrue, okay? Actually, what has occurred is these folks are happier, they're healthier, they have more of a connection to nature and the land and spirit and each other. And they also have the same technology we have in all these countries. Apple Pay and all these things, they work. I don't need a credit card, I use my phone. Unless it's a really, really small mom and pop shop, which would be no different in the US, I don't have to use cash. So, it goes to show that, the term third world doesn't mean what, in a quote unquote first world country, we are told that it actually means. So you're given an illusion or a perspective of life that, quite frankly, is not true. And if you were to visit these countries, they wouldn't call themselves a third world country. You see, we're also told that throughout all of these third world countries, starvation is rampant. There's not enough food. These people need to be saved. There's no country I've been to that needs to be saved. In fact, in many of these countries I've visited, we could learn, or better yet, remember things we have forgotten about how to live in order to live a happier, more fulfilling life. You see, to me, what's occurred is we've sold ourselves in some ways to technology, and we've sold ourselves to the coldness of what technology offers, and that we are now finding that's unfulfilling. Yet, for some reason, we feel like if we can project that image on all the countries around us, that somehow that'll help us to feel maybe more whole, which is no different than your journey as a human being. What do I mean by that? I mean, people go and they look and they search for a partner rather than first searching for their peace, love, and happiness within. They search for someone to complete them, not realizing that you are whole and complete as who you are. And what the world does is, the world, whether you call it a simulation or simulated reality or a biological simulation or whatever you want to call it, the world most definitely reflects that back to you. And this is a powerful thing to understand, because when you understand that, then you understand that by changing your internal world, the external world will reflect your internal world. And I mean that from the aspect of, you see, for me, I feel nothing but love, peace, safety within self. Am I perfect? No. I mean, there are still a few, things here and there, because again, this is a lifelong journey of remembering and self-discovering. But as you take that journey and you start to resolve some of the issues internally, the world reflects it to you. See, on this journey, I felt nothing but love, peace, connection. I've seen that it doesn't matter where I travel, everyone's the same. We all have the same problems. We all have the same wants. We all have the same desires. We all have the same control factors that are pushed upon us. And we experience them a lot of ways in the same exact way. And I can go into depth on that, but I won't, because it's not as valid to the video as the points I'm trying to get across to you, that when you change inside, you change outside. Whether you choose to believe that it means that we are in a simulation, and as science is starting to talk about, you jump to a different timeline, or whether the world reflects back to you your inner state. However you choose to view it, I can tell you that it is undeniable. It is quite recognizable. And the problem for me that I can foresee is that what science does is it gets us locked into, why does this happen? Why is this? Versus for the average person in the world, the why is kind of irrelevant. Think about that for a minute. You see, you've been hearing a lot, possibly if you're doing any kind of review of the world, of science, of where we are, you are starting to hear the term quantum mechanics, okay? Quantum mechanics, quantum physics, these are all things that we're delving deep in, but I think most people misunderstand. They think, oh, this is new science. This isn't new science. Quantum mechanics has been around for over 120 years, okay? And it's been proven to exist in all of that time period. It has been a proven fact of reality. It is not some sort of a woo-woo, we don't know what this is. It's proven. It is proven that when consciousness is applied to light waves, it condenses into particles or matter. It's proven. So understanding that's important. You see, science wants to know why, but for the normal average person, the why doesn't matter. Okay, that's like trying to look at each individual piece of this bamboo stick to discover its origin, rather than stepping back and just seeing the vast array of beautiful bamboo that exists within that little grove right there. You see, most of you get too stuck in the weeds. I also have been guilty at times of going down the rabbit holes and getting stuck into the weeds, not recognizing and realizing that, I guess for lack of a better word, my salvation is in the balance between all, is in the peace that I feel within, is in with resolving those things internally that I struggle with that present themselves externally. I told you this was going to be a little bit different. You see, most people want to argue and debate. I'm not really here to argue and debate. I'm more here to give my perspective on what I've discovered, and I do enjoy hearing your perspective as well. Because even though I have my perspective, you see, when you begin to understand the inner workings of ego, you begin to understand that perspective is just that, it's a perspective. It's not the whole truth, and that until I can sit and listen to your truth and see how it relates to my truth, I'm not getting the fullest picture of what the truth is. Because you see, we all are like a little key in the lock of existence to uncover all of it, the what we are and the who we are. And unless you are in a place where you are willing to question those things, you don't ever escape them. You're going to be locked in. You know, I laugh because sometimes I listen to some different podcasts and people start talking about others, and well, if these people could just have purpose, you know, they wouldn't be losers. I mean, to me, I hear these things, and to be honest with you, it just makes me shake my head a bit. Because what that is the projection projecting upon itself. You see, what is purpose? You see, people say if you're just flowing with life, that you're like a rudderless ship. But that implies an ocean, and that implies that the ocean is life. But is the purpose the rudder, or is the purpose the wind behind the sails? Think about that for a minute. I think it's an important thing to understand. You see, if you have a ship with sails and no rudder, you still have the capability of going in a specific direction, or trusting that the way that the wind is pushing you is the direction you're supposed to go, whether you have the rudder to keep you going straight or not. And if the ocean is just life, I think that analogy probably stands pretty firm. But most people would say, well, if you don't have the rudder, you have no purpose. I disagree. I think that it's the acceptance that life happens around you regardless of how much you choose or choose not to interact or participate with it, and that by falling into the quote-unquote doership, you are missing the aspect of reality and of consciousness that is the non-doership aspect. And this is the difference between, say, things such as Christianity versus Buddhism. They both have, in many ways, they say the same exact thing, but from different perspectives. And then you begin to understand that maybe a balance between the two is what makes a more fulfilling journey. The balance between the two is what helps guide you better. It's the allowing the universe to show you what doership you should do versus just going out and choosing to do things, even though potentially the doing things is just fighting against the system that is built to that kind of upholds the illusion, if that makes sense. So anyways, there's a long discussion to talk about the end result, which is, at the end of the day, what you truly embody and believe is what is projected to you, and that is undeniable. That is undeniable. Now, again, not talking about Newtonian physics. We're not talking about jumping off a cliff. We're talking about how you choose to believe in life. There are, again, too many aspects of people, not only who could take a sugar pill, but also people who go into deep meditation and instances where they heal themselves from things that Western medicine believed was going to kill them instantly or within a few months. Yet they're still alive and they're healed. You see, it's understanding that there's something more, and that what happens is that the illusion, the matrix, the simulation tries to program you into thinking one way, when the salvation is to trust yourself, go internal, and allow the guru in you to guide you on your path. But what say you? Do you believe that there are aspects of truth in that, or do you strictly believe that the world is the world and there is no changing it, and that it just is what it is, and you're just here to make a name for yourself? No judgment. I'm just curious as to how you feel about that. As always, if you enjoy this content, please like, share, and subscribe. I am truly grateful. And until I talk to you again, peace, love, light. I hope you have the most amazing day.